I sure would like one of these things following us around, helping us carry things around. Rithikar, why don't you tell us kind of what this thing is, your latest Autobot, I believe it's called.
This year, we unveiled autonomous delivery robots, Ottobot Yeti. These Autobots are meant for delivering fully autonomous items to different type of customers like retailers, food and beverages, and also e-commerce. One of the most important things which we brought in for this CES is that these robots can also auto-dispense the packages to your doorstep or to any integrated lockers. So that's what we have this year.
Yeah, and it's a great advancement from last year's. And Alan, this is the first time you've seen it. What were your impressions? You heard the press conference a minute ago?
Well, I of course like the fact that it could pivot on a point and do a 360 turn and basically be the maneuverability aspect that I think you have to have. You need some maneuverability, especially if you're putting this thing down the sidewalk or wherever you're doing it. So I appreciated that. I just thought that the design, I think, to me, I consider it modular. Whatever they happen to have on the platform on top is, for one particular application that fits best, and all that is redesignable. And I think you expressed that very well in terms of how many slots and whether or not you do the delivery piece or not the delivery piece. The delivery piece is really important because otherwise you need a person there. In some places you have the person available, in other places you don't. And so that you can hit the you don'ts, having the ability to deliver it is sort of an important thing. I asked the question about whether or not they had thought about putting this on a larger driverless, of course, delivery vehicle, an Amazon type delivery system or a U.S. Post Office delivery system, where basically it does the neighborhood delivery from a mothership that has this, and the mothership loads it and then it delivers it. And of course, as we know, one of the, for me, for delivery, or I don't know what percentage of Amazon's deliveries can be done between midnight and 5 a.m. When you don't have a person there, and now you have an ability to deliver it, why not get that done while you don't have to worry about Elizabeth walking her dog or other people on the sidewalk? I mean, the infrastructure is sitting there available, not being used, and do it. You have a certain amount of flexibility. I know we all want our packages, the next minute, but come on, I mean, let's get real. So those kinds of things. So I guess
great observation.
Yeah, no, but I think all those things are really nice, and I of course I like the modular aspect of it. I was going to ask, the other place, we can do this out there in the public, but in the private, in the warehouse. I mean, you have all these warehouse, and all these conveyors, and sort of the conveyor is more of, it's at best a many-to-one type efficient system. But what you end up having is really a many-to-many. So, you can't have a conveyor many-to-one then distribute. But in fact, you may have, sort of a satellite part of the many to satellites, and then satellite to then the many, for which this, because of its flexibility and handling very, satellites can sit there and do the hopping. And then if you put this in a protected environment, then, you can go nuts, right? Can't you? Or am I missing it?
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable piece because, there's a background story to it. So the co-founding team, half of the co-founding team was from autonomous warehousing side.
Yeah.
Half of it was from autonomous driving side. So we came in both from warehousing and autonomous driving on roads. Yeah. So we found a middle ground, which is delivery. Yeah. And when we started exploring that, I think the market potential for delivery is much larger than any, logistics within the control spaces.
Sure.
And it is challenging. So right now we want to focus on something which is not 100% solved by any of our competitors, so that we have the lead ahead. And warehousing, very interesting space, very competitive space, both in terms of quality and pricing. So that's where, at this point in time, we just want to focus on delivery, not to spread too thin.
Yeah, I think that's all valid.
And you started, though, in the airports, right? In a kind of a it's not really a private, but it's a kind of a enclosed space. And you've expanded that. With this, are you planning on both indoor and outdoor?
Yeah. Now the platform is exactly the same, both for indoor and outdoor. So we started with Cincinnati International Airport. We just finished up our first round of pilots at Pittsburgh Airport. And we are already live at Rome International Airport. So that's our first entry in Europe. That is a gradual way of repeating more and more airports over the period of time. So we are on track.
I have a quick question because I could have used it the other day when I needed a sandwich and I was a long ways from. So the question is, with that ramp, are you going to be dumping sandwiches and stuff, or is there a different mechanism for doing that?
The ramp won't be used for for the airports.
Okay.
But specifically, the ramp or the auto dispense is basically used for dispensing e-commerce packages to the doorstop or lockers.
Yeah, he gave the good answer to the dispenser. The dispenser is when the human's not there ready to take it. If you're ready to wolf down your food, you want it and you can grab it. Okay, you don't need it dropped on you. So anyway, he gave the good answer to that one.
My fault for not being there. but Ellen was listening, so that's one of the things. The difference from last year is you're now part of the Urban Robotics Foundation, and tell us a little bit about that. I think because that deals with the human factor, right?
So Urban, Robotics Foundation Group basically helps us tremendously to orchestrate a framework in which different type of robots can coexist and still have a same streamlined aspect of safety, of accessibility, and both technology-wise and usability-wise. So I think it's a great effort, and it takes a village to make that change, and that's what the Urban Robotics Foundation is doing right now. And we are on track. We will be pushing out an ISO standard pretty soon. And that is going to be the first one for any public robots.
Speaking of the deliveries, I guess you have in the postal service in Norway, right? Is using it?
So we did a very extended pilot with the postal department of Norway, which is Posten. And there we actually touched upon a use case which was first mile delivery. And within that use case, we bring in items from different sources to the hub where these items are kept into the vans for long last mile delivery. So we were actually solving a problem for the postal department to collect packages from different sources to deliver. So that's something which we did. And the good thing was that we started in bright sunny weather, and then the robots ran fully autonomously in snowfall, and also in heavy snow towards December. So I think it was a very, very fruitful pilot which we just finished, and now we're crunching more data to create a larger span out within postal in Norway.
This thought just occurred to me, Alan. Do you see something like this being complementary to maybe something like what you're doing with TrentonMOVEs?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, of course. No.
Right?
Yeah, of course. In the moving of goods and the moving of packages and so on, absolutely, and that's what we've sort of been discussing, and it can do that. I think, as he just pointed out with his previous answers, and as I suggested with the warehouse problem, there's a collection problem and there's a distribution problem. Both of them are short haul. Okay, now whether or not it's last mile or last 50 feet or last 500 feet or last 100 feet, it's that. It seems, one of the issues with the number of packages and the number of deliveries you can do here, the empty vehicle miles associated with this is non-trivial. Whether it's 1-to-1 or 0.8 to 1 or 0.75 to 1, it's non-trivial, I think, at least if I look at the use case and and how in the heck it would end up operating and so on. So I think there are other ways. I sort of like the cascading rather than doing all the way from one end to the other, but maybe that's not the right way to work this. But in any sense, there is just an enormous demand for that last whatever chunk is, and extending that chunk longer probably gets you in more trouble. The net gain versus the net effort. You mentioned you wanted to do tough things. It drives me nuts when people want to do tough. Why don't we just do the simple things and be successful and make some money and then grow from that? I mean, too much of the hype around all this stuff is, oh man, I have to do San Francisco and do the curliest street in the world, whatever, and show my manhood and all that. Get out of here. I mean, once you find the real problems and do the real value, get on the value proposition, be successful, and then move from the success. Okay, but that's just my personal beef.
No, that's absolutely fine. But it's the labor shortage is still there. So
yeah, the labor shortage, and
it's real.
But it's in a lot of things. Humans aren't necessarily the right entity to do it. Okay, there are certain things we do very well, and it's very tough to find something else to do it.
Yeah.
Heavy lifting, we're not all that good at. Some of these other things we're not all that good at, and therefore, taking tolls on the New Jersey Turnpike, we're not all that good at, nor should we put people in that. Some of this deliver my lunch. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan, but that's me, I guess. Sorry about that one.
It comes with different, demographics.
Yeah.
It comes with different, so many different things.
Right.
So one of the most important things which we actually also did was around curbside deliveries, which is bringing items from inside the store to just the parking lot. So it's kind of breaking down the bigger problem into a smaller chunk, where to the parking lot for the curbside pickup still makes sense. Still there is a staff which is moving in and out continuously to make those deliveries, and I think that's step one. That is extended to last mile and so on and so forth.
And that kind of gets back to the whole movable conveyor belt, right? The virtual conveyor belt, because a lot of the stores you'd see that have a conveyor belt from the second story that bring the goods down, right? This would replace that conveyor belt, right?
Maybe from the second story to the first story is fine, but then from there to have then another one and so on, it's sort of what I was suggesting in between, because this thing has the opportunity to do a many-to-many dynamically. It doesn't have to run a route. It doesn't have to just go between A and B. That's the fundamental opportunity here, okay, is to have the flexibility of doing the many-to-many in real time, okay? And so, where is it that otherwise you have people standing around, or people are only trained to do this, or whatever. So, to me, those are the kinds of problems which, I like the design. I like what you've done. I think this, the footprint is
good that it's coming from you.
Well, I'm a nasty guy.
I made you smile. That's good.
Yeah, and you were talking though about doing like 80 trips a day type of thing. I mean,
I think right now it's more focused around the number of deliveries which we can make during each hour. So anything, it always depends. It's a function of weather, distance, and everything.
Sure.
But on an average, anything between 5 to 8 deliveries an hour is something which
that's
we
kind
take
of
care
your
of.
business model to work. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, given the round trip distance, the speed, and so on, there is a limit to the number of these things that you do, and the number of individual ones in the tour that you can do. But the capacity limit is not necessarily the problem, because there are a few places in which you need big capacity. Right. What you need is, in most of these things, is the flexibility. Okay, and because if you have big capacity, then you can afford to put a human in there to take a big truck and drive a big truck. It's just like if you can fill a bus, you don't need any of these automated people mover type of thing. Problem is, very few places you can fill a bus. Enough times, except for half a trip. Never mind, we don't want to go there. But I think that's the opportunity, and in things in which you end up getting over 50, deliveries per day. You multiply that out by 300 days, you see how you distribute the capital cost of the thing. The capital cost component goes to zero. Goes zero very quickly. So that's where you end up having to be, because, operating costs. There's management costs. He also admitted that, yes, you have to have a centralized system on top monitoring this stuff. Things are going to happen. You're going to have intervention that is successful.
I think this has been very helpful for telling us what you're doing.
So thank you for the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.